Hello, my name is Phil Calhoun. I'm with Integrity Advisors. We created a video series based on commission protection. Our goal is to help brokers learn ways to protect, grow, and sell their commissions. We also developed a guide that's available now for you to purchase and covers the same topics. It's a guide for brokers, health brokers, on protecting, growing, and selling their commissions. The most important aspect of this process of commission protection is to find a successor. So we created a video series specifically on successor topics because our goal is to educate and motivate brokers to protect their commissions. So join our commission protection newsletter, which is available on our website, and you'll keep current with information that pertains to commission protection coming from the carriers, coming from our legal team, and also case studies from our experience in working directly with brokers. So enjoy the video series and reach out. We look forward to talking with you. Thank you.
Well, Phil, doesn't everybody need a successor?
For health commissions, yes. All right, so this is Daniel Wexler. He is a lawyer with Strazzeri and Mancini, and he has helped us a number of times working with brokers to implement and put in place a successful agreement for successors and also acquisition agreements. So let's start. A successor is needed by any broker who receives commissions. Successors are the preferred way to protect commissions. Brokers need a method to keep their commissions protected. So if a life event were to happen and the broker cannot remain active, they can continue their commissions with the help of a successor. But remember, health commissions continue to be paid to a broker as long as the broker meets the carrier's requirements. And basically that's stay licensed, certified, and be in good standing with the carrier. So the greatest risk to commissions is what we like to call a life event, which could be a death or disability. And far too often brokers learn the hard way that commissions only continue as long as they are able to complete continuing education, renew their license, and pass annual certification. Failure to do these things leaves the door open for the carriers to walk in and cut off your commissions. So another key consideration is doing the support and service work necessary to retain your clients. So the point of having a successor is to have a professional you select who will step in when you're unable to stay active.
Well, Phil, I think that what's tremendously important to discuss in this is to really remind people that the idea of building the business like you have over 35 years is to have what I call mailbox checks, meaning these are checks that arrive every month, month in and month out. There's no lawyer or dentist or doctor or architect or any other professional that I'm aware of that has that capability. And if you don't protect it, the insurance company is going to make sure that the profit that would otherwise have been paid to you is going to go to their bottom line. So it behooves any business owner. And by the way, a broker or a widget maker or a restaurant owner are all business owners, is to figure out how to make sure that there's a continuation of the business. What the business owner who is exiting wants is the financial, treasure that they have built to be paid to them. But that requires some planning. And if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. And it's been my experience over 30 years as an attorney that you've got to get to this at the beginning or at the point where you think it's important. And it's not just death or disability. It could be something called retirement. How do we retire in the style that we've grown accustomed? And I think one of the wonderful things that you and your team has done is created a way to help brokers address this and deal with it by asking the right types of questions.
So one of the key questions that we see from brokers who are just getting into this concept of protecting their commissions, they want to know what a successor is. So for a health broker, a successor is someone who's licensed, contracted, and active with all the carriers and plans that a health broker receives commissions from. So the responsibilities of a successor range from being prepared and available to step into the broker's shoes at any time needed. And in order to do that, the broker successor has to be able to also have all the licensure and certifications that the health broker has. So while the broker is active and alive to do the work necessary to retain clients and their commissions, the successor just sits in a ready position. They must be prepared to step in when the broker experiences a life event or when they decide to retire. So its successor is a person, right?
Right. Well, yes is the answer. The short answer, if you think about a trustee, a successor trustee would be the classic thing. Or if you're thinking about death, a personal representative in probate. But in this situation, you need to have the proper person who has got all the appropriate licensing and the ability to service your business. Because if the business fails to continue, there won't be anything to get you paid on because there won't be any mailbox checks arriving. But you don't want it has to be a person, not a business structure. And it has to be the right person. It has to be a person who you feel comfortable with. You wouldn't select a person that you don't trust to be the person who's going to continue looking out for your family, your loved ones, or your business. So this requires some legwork and it requires some research and some due diligence before that time. The terrible thing that we have seen is people aren't prepared because they haven't thought ahead, and then a life event happens. They become disabled or they die suddenly, and their family loses all that they've built. So it's something you have to think about it early.
So when it comes to health insurance commissions, picking the right successor is important for all those reasons. We've had a number of experiences where we have a succession plan in place and the decides to retire. So we know from working with health insurance carriers that the only way to sell or transfer commissions is through a carrier-specific process. And the transfer is from the retiring broker to a person licensed and certified with that same carrier or carriers and is in good standing with the carriers. Because of this nature of our industry, the successors have to meet those requirements as well.
In fact, every single insurance company that you deal with, Phil, has their own requirements, don't they?
Correct.
This is not a uniform one-size-fits-all. It's not like intestate succession in the state of California, which has a plan for everyone. You have to know what I's to dot and what T's to cross so that you make sure that the mailbox checks continue to flow.
Absolutely. So the successor fills this role as the new broker of record with the carriers, in the eyes of the carriers. And so the transfer is approved by the carrier. This new broker moves in, but only at the point where the health broker wants the successor to step in. So that could be through the family. It could be through, if the person's not healthy enough to continue the business and the commissions are at risk. It could be an agreement that they have built into the successor planning. So we're often asked about commission protection in those situations where a medical issue causes a broker no longer to be able to perform, no longer able to be active. And we've labeled this as a life event.
Like COVID-19?
Like COVID-19. So it's medical related in most cases. And it has to be significant enough to cause a broker to no longer stay active and have a threat, therefore, to the continuation of their commissions. So the whole point of a successor, from a legal standpoint, is to also have somebody licensed and certified and agree to perform the role, right?
Yeah. As much as I like you, Phil, I couldn't have you be the successor in my law firm because you're not a lawyer. It has to be the right person at the right time in the right place. And of course, we don't know what the right time is, but we can find the right person and have them be in place when that life event occurs. And that's incredibly important. And everybody thinks it's not going to happen to me. That happens to other people. Unfortunately, through 30 years as a practicing attorney, it does happen to people. Disability, death, divorce, bankruptcy, all of these things are things that we as lawyers have to address in what we consider succession agreements, buy-sells. In your situation, what you've done, and I think it's brilliant, is you have created a way to be like the backstop, like the catcher, in case something happens. But you also can be proactive, can't you?
Absolutely. So that's what we're talking about, is having a successor lined up ahead of time, ready when needed to protect commissions. Also, we'll talk in further videos that we plan to have about how those agreements need to be spelled out to include the what ifs. You know, what if the broker decides to retire? What if the broker decides that they're no longer healthy enough to continue? Or maybe, you know, Mother Nature decides, or Father Time decides. So
death is an exit strategy.
So being a successor is a great responsibility. And so that agreement that you referenced, Danny, that's putting it in writing, right? I think in your world, writing is what we need, something in writing, right?
You need an enforceable agreement, a contract, something that your loved ones can make sure that they know what the rules are and how they're going to be compensated, or how the compensation will flow to them. And of course, it has to be in writing. You don't want this to be an oral agreement or a handshake. By the way, you could do it on a cocktail napkin as long as it's signed and dated, but I think it's best to do it in a way where you've given the time and thought to make sure that you get all the points covered that you need after you've identified a good successor.
So now that we talked about successors, you know, what is a successor? We're going to be talking in the next video about how to find a successor, and then we're going to talk about what's in a successor agreement. So thank you for your time, and we hope this information was valuable. Please look for our updated videos at our website below and under the broker commission protection blue box on our website. If you just click from our homepage, you'll reach the videos. And thank you for your time, Danny.
Phil, it's always a pleasure to spend time with you. Thank you for having me. And if you've got any questions, folks, Phil is a wonderful, wonderful source of information. He spent a lot of time and energy getting to understand what all of the company's requirements are. So if you have any legal questions, feel free to reach out to him and I'll get in touch with you. Thank you.
Thank you.